I certainly think the market was looking for some optimism and looking for some hope. And what the news said this week is that there is going to be hope. That Pfizer announced their vaccine trial results, and that's encouraging. While it will take some time to roll out, there are a number of other producers that also have vaccines in the works. There are therapeutics in the works. Eli Lilly announced antibody treatment that they have ready to go. So there's a lot of good news out there. The timing is what's really critical, but the market was celebrating and certainly taking a moment to appreciate the fact that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to be able to come out of this situation.
It's quite a dramatic shift in the commentary we've had, where the market has been fixated on a stimulus, that more spending is required to heal some of the scars in the economy, and now we've shifted to markets pricing in a slim chance of a rate hike in 2021. Is a vaccine that big a game changer?
I think the market has been reacting dramatically to everything that's occurring. Think back to March, when we saw the dramatic downturn as the virus was unfolding and news was spreading of how significant it was and how contagious it was. The market has since recovered from them, even prior to the vaccine news. So the market reacts pretty dramatically. There's a lot of major market movements. There's a lot more volatility in the markets today for a variety of reasons, some of them tied to technology, some of them tied to fragmentation across different places that stocks trade. So there's a lot of major market moves, and we're seeing that play out now. It doesn't mean that they're going to stay at this level from now until the time a vaccine is completely distributed, but certainly we are seeing a major market reaction. It was tied to this significant event. We'll see other events that have similar reactions to the market. I expect to see that.
We've been all buzzing about circuit breakers, whether they will be required in the Monday session, which points to some of the volatility. How prepared have you been for wild swings on the markets, first up around the election, but now around the COVID news?
We don't get the luxury of knowing when to be prepared, so we need to be prepared all the time. We need to always be ready for what might happen. We certainly saw that in the spring. No one gave us advance notice that we were going to see a major market downturn. So our systems are ready for major market moves at all times. We're constantly improving them. When we see a major market event, we see multiples of prior volumes and activity. So in March, we triggered the amount of volumes that we saw through our systems was 3 times what we had seen on our prior peak day. So we have to be ready for conditions like that all the time. You mentioned circuit breakers. They're a little bit unique because they only apply on the market wide on the way down. So when you look at a major market move to the upside, we don't see that same level of circuit breaker trigger, because investors tend to panic when markets are going down. So we want to give them a pause so they can take a breath and assess the situation and make sure they're making informed decisions. It's a little bit differently when you don't see that same emotional reaction on the upside.
I want to ask you how the election played out from your lens. It felt like a different one to 2016, where we had a fairly dramatic trading pattern initially after the news broke. This time around, we were watching battleground states for days. How different an election year was it for you?
Well, in 2016, the news came out more quickly, so there was a more rapid response from the election. This time, because of the uncertainty around the election, it's been a more muted reaction over time. We did see Monday morning that markets were up because they were interpreting the results to say that President-elect Biden had been, would be taking office. What we've seen since then, it was the vaccine taking over the news cycle. I think really important to recognize that both of those stories around the election results in the U.S. as well as the vaccine news and other elements of our fight against COVID-19 is they're not unrelated. What's really critical is how the administration, whoever is in the White House, now or in January, is handling the distribution of the vaccine, because there is time. How long before we actually get those vaccines into people's arms is a big part of that story for the economic recovery. And how we handle that situation is our next challenge. So I am really optimistic and impressed and inspired by the work our pharmaceutical companies have done so far. But we need to make sure that we're there to support them so that their success is really eloquently and expertly executed in the market.
I also asked the New York Stock Exchange president for her thoughts on the postponed Ant Group IPO.
Certainly we're seeing, there is a global dynamic across IPOs. There's a lot of dialogue around having how Chinese companies list here in the US, as well as what Shanghai and Hong Kong are doing. And it's important that we make sure that we never lose focus of what makes the US market so deep and so liquid is the balance of investor access and investor protections. So we want to make sure that we have appropriate investor protections, like the audit oversight that's important for for each and every one of these companies here, but also that we're providing access, and so that we're not encouraging companies to go to other global markets, and that we keep the value of what the United States of America offers to these companies.